Thanks for joining us for another Rhetorica interview with a communication expert. Today's expert is Darren Addison. Darren is the CEO and founder of Strategy Illustrated, a firm he started about 20 years ago that helps organisations communicate in a bit of a different way. It's not just about plain language communication, but there's a very strong visual element to the way Darren works and helps organisations communicate. Your clients, Darren, include organisations that are well known to Australians: Qantas, Apple, some of the major banks, major construction companies, Leighton, Tees, etc., etc. Darren, what makes communicating in an organisation so hard?
Well, there's many factors associated with that, but really in my neck of the woods, I find that CEOs and leaders in general have a difficult time communicating strategy because there tends to be quite a disconnect between people's understanding of strategic language and concepts and the way it's being put over by the leaders. And really, they're just doing the best that they can with the information that they have, but it takes a broader range of channels for people to really be able to engage with something that they have very little reference for. So really my work and the opportunity that my company spotted was to turn on more channels so that leaders could communicate on a broader scope in a visual way, in an auditory way, in a kinesthetic feeling way, to help people really get a better sense of what strategy is and does. The movie makers do it really, really well. I mean, what is it that allows people to sit in a movie theatre for 2 hours or more sometimes and be silent, be still, be engaged, be able to come out the next day and remember most or all of the movie, and be able to, even a week later, have quite a deep conversation with somebody else about what actually happened in those 2 hours? Now, if leaders could achieve that with communicating strategy, I think they'd be extremely happy. So a lot can be learned from the way movie makers or writers of films put things together. They have a narrative, they have a really good visual aspect to it, but they also make us feel things. They can make us feel sad, they can make us feel scared, and those sorts of things really connect us to the message.
Darren, as the technology has improved, now we have all this bandwidth available and great multimedia technologies. Do you see all of that changing the way your company works, or adding to the way your company works, or adding to the way, improving the way companies can communicate with their employees, with their clients, with stakeholders?
I think there's a natural movement towards doing all of this online because you reach a broader scope of people in much more cost-effective and time-effective ways. However, I think doing it all online is possibly a mistake. I think the face-to-face component of human interactivity can't be replaced. I think it takes special individuals to be able to do that through technology and still get a good result. But I really find that the face-to-face dialogue component of communicating strategy inside organisations, it's still relevant, it's still necessary, and it still gets the best result by far of any of the technology or other means of communication. That's my experience.
How much does an effective communication program rely on the natural talent of the leaders in the organisation? And how much on tools?
To some extent, the more talented and charismatic individuals get a lot of the airtime because of those very qualities. People like to listen to them, they're engaging, they're exciting, but they're also able to string the message together in a way where people can understand it. A lot of the work that I do is creating a flow and a model and a set of tools that will let a broader scope of leaders communicate in a much more effective, connected way. So you're not so reliant on the talented individuals.
Yeah, and that's got to be a good thing. Where did these ideas come from?
Well, it was from the US military, really. A guy called Jim Channon, who was a member of the US military, I think he was a colonel or something like that. He was in charge of strategy. for a department or for an area. And his challenge was to find ways of getting better outcomes on the battlefield. The different elements of the military were going into battle, and they were meant to coordinate and be able to do a reasonably good job. But they were finding that they were using a lot of materials, they were wasting a lot of machinery, and really just getting poor outcomes. He discovered that communication was really to blame for that. And he began to, on the front cover of his strategy manuals, draw a basic picture, which, people have been doing that for a very long time, but he was able to do it in such a way where different aspects or different elements of the offensive were able to understand the big picture. They were able to communicate in a very simple way, and they were able to get much better outcomes on the battlefield just through better understanding. Once he discovered that, then he began to do it on a commercial basis, and that's really where I ran into him and learned more about what he was doing.
Okay. What's the importance of the nature of the vision that you're using? I used the word, there was a comic strip I saw some safety stuff, and it was very comic, and you think, oh, well, that may work in that context. Your diagrams, I've noticed, have a much more architectural blueprint flavour. What's the continuum there, and how important is it where you position yourself along that continuum?
Yeah, well, once again, it's important to be able to bring some familiar references to people around the concept of strategy. It's my experience that they are lacking to a large degree. So doing it in an architectural format brings a familiar reference. People are used to seeing an artist's impression of a new building, seeing people in that picture and being able to associate themselves with something that is a concept still, or something that isn't yet built. So that's helped a great deal. It also looks sophisticated. It's a good reflection of some of these larger organisations.
Darren, to tell us about narrative briefly. How well do you think corporate leaders are equipped to tell stories to their people, and how important is that?
Well, I think it's extremely important. I would say that the language of strategy is it's understood by very few people, and until that language is broken down and made into a common language that's shared amongst an organisation, I think that companies will continue to struggle. A simple narrative is really all it takes. Everyone can rally around and understand there's a beginning, a middle and an end, or a call to action, a reason for doing something, what needs to be done and what the outcome is. And that's the sort of thing that people can return to time and again when things get detailed, which inevitably they will. I mean, we use an analogy that is like a diving metaphor, where you've got different depths. Say, on the surface is a snorkeling depth, and that's where everybody can jump in the water, everyone can snorkel around, everyone can see the reef and communicate about that. And that's really where a visual and a narrative really helps. It helps more people get into the water and enjoy the snorkeling. But the minute you start to dive down to deeper depths, you begin to lose people. And now, if you were to do a deep dive to, say, 120 feet, very few people would be able to follow you. And the qualifications that you would need in terms of which that you need is so confined and it's so refined that very few people can understand it. So basically what we're saying is stop diving to 120 feet and come back to the surface and engage everybody with a bit of snorkeling first.
Excellent. Darren, if we want to find out a little more or have a look at some strategy illustrated visuals and narratives, what's the best way to do that?
Go to the website for sure, www.strategyillustrated.com.au, and there's three predominant visuals that you'll see there, and they are the big picture context visuals of transformation, performance, and leadership. And they are really different perspectives on the same continuum. If you imagine one journey one journey continuum, one pathway. It really does depend just where you place the camera on that continuum to get the kind of perspective that you want to share with people. So really that's the best way to do it, is check it out online.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren.
Okay, thanks, Antoni.